Welcome everybody back to another episode of the X podcast. My name is Brenda Rigney and I'm your dream business coach. Today I have on Dr. Patti Gonzalez. Patti is a retired chiropractor turned health concierge. So I can't wait to get into that and understand a little bit more about that. But Patti has curated a holistic approach to restoring your health blueprint and focusing on gut health, parasites, and other root cause issues. So I'm curious about all of these things because our audience inside the X podcast is what I like to say midlife women entrepreneurs, but I mean, I'm sure there's other people that sort of fall into that range that listen to our podcast. So I want to dig into that today, Patti. But first of all, I just want to say welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brenda. It's an honor and pleasure to be here.
This is going to be such a great conversation. So can you give us an insight into your role, your business as a health concierge?
Yes, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm a retired chiropractor. So I kind of fell into being a health concierge while I was in practice. Because while I was actually adjusting patients, they were asking me about gut health or mood or a variety of different things. And so I got to learn because I was researching for them, because I didn't want it to just be, well, adjust them and send you out the door. I really cared about their overall health. So I really started to dive into a variety of different places. So when I retired from chiropractic, I realized I was already doing what I loved, and that was helping people in their health really customize whatever it was that they needed. So the concierge piece has really just come from that. I know a little about a lot of things and a lot about a little. And honestly, if someone brings me something that's unique, I will dive in and research, or I know someone, and so I want to refer them that way. And I think that's what's also really important about a concierge, is that it's not just about me. It's about the network of people that I know. And I'm not always going to be the one that has the right answer. But I want someone to get the answer. So I'll point them in the right direction.
That's amazing. So when we talk about gut health, and the audience is most likely going to be listening to the podcast today, what should we as midlife women know about our gut health?
Our gut health is one of the most important things that we can take care of as we age. Being middle-aged myself and having gone through perimenopause, and now apparently I'm in full-blown menopause, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But
do you get like a sticker? Like,
I know.
Do we get like a little badge or something?
Yeah,
Like, I made it.
Yeah, there's a badge in the mail somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think that really understanding the importance of gut health, and not just in middle age, but obviously before then, but as we find ourselves in our middle age, like, how can we really start to take hold of an understanding of what our gut health means? Because our gut is where about 70% of our serotonin is made. That's our happy hormone. So if we're not happy, then how can we change that, not just in our environment, but in our microbiome and our gut? And so making gentle shifts in the foods that we eat, or paying attention to how we're feeling after we eat a particular food, or groups of foods, we can start to recognize, oh, maybe I shouldn't be eating that anymore. And just starting to see how impactful our gut is for our overall health. Because I think a lot of people just were like, well, my gut's fine, but I have this chronic,
like bloating or something.
Bloating, or I have brain fog all the time, or I'm exhausted. And honestly, a lot of those things do point back to our gut.
I hear that a lot from my clients, and I hear that from a lot of women that I talk to that are my age, like friends, family. It's like we've just kind of gone into sort of override or acceptance that, oh yeah, this symptom is just part of perimenopause. I just have to deal with it. And that may be true because our hormones are shifting, like you said, and that's affecting how we digest food and process the food and use the food as far as energy in our body. But it doesn't have to be like this uncomfortable, unbearable experience. And maybe there's some things that we can do to offset that.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that frustrates me most about a lot of the clients that I work with, and just people I talk to in general, is they've been told this is just how it's going to be. And I want people to know it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Just because you've been, one, given a diagnosis, or two, told, well, that's just kind of the way it is, you're getting older. It's not true. I believe that we can age gracefully. I believe that menopause and perimenopause and, getting older doesn't have to be challenging, and we don't have to be overloaded with a bunch of symptoms. I think that we were designed to, honestly, we were designed to live to 120 years old, but not many people are doing that, if
Okay.
any, right?
I have a goal to 100. That's why I'm always talking about midlife, because people are like, oh, midlife sounds so daunting. I'm like, no. I'm planning on being around here for another 50 years. Like, it's a cool thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we just live in a society, everything's very fast paced, and we're
Mhm.
bombarded with toxins and chemicals and all kinds of stuff that our health starts to decline. But
Right.
if we can bring the awareness to what it is that we need to do in order to live healthy to 100, has always been my goal as well. That we can not just survive, but start to thrive.
So what would you recommend to somebody that is, I mean, I mentioned this to you earlier before I pressed record, like there's all this polarizing content that's out there. And it seems like, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I started doing a Google search on what is perimenopause. And now I'm just inundated with algorithms and content from all these different sources, people meaning well, like I'll just paraphrase that, because, I've obviously got clients that are in like the wellness space and they might be talking about it, and they offer really great content, or folks like yourself. So where should I start? Like how do I like sift through all of that just to make sure that I am getting the right information for me and like what's going on with my body?
Right. I think the biggest place to start is, one, have you been working with a provider?
Mm-hmm.
So talking to your provider that you've been working with for a while, because they'll have your history to
Right.
be able to look at, is this abnormal for you? Or is this something that you've been dealing with for years anyway? And the
Mm-hmm.
challenge with perimenopause is, one, it's a long time frame. Like perimenopause and menopause can go from anywhere from 5 to 15 years.
Right.
So nobody wants to deal with symptoms for that amount of time, right? No,
No,
thank you.
I'm like, well, how will I be at the end of all of this? Like,
Right?
well, and also, how will all my friends and family be too? Like,
Right. Will they make it through?
will they make it through? Did they get a
Exactly.
badge of honor too?
Right. For sure. For putting up with us.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing too is to start to pay attention. Like I said, it's a long duration of time, but there's also a variety of different things that can start to point to perimenopause and how our bodies are starting to make a change. I mean, think about this. This is kind of wild. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she's starting the hormones. And I'm like, ooh, how is this happening that we're both doing this at the same time, yet on opposite spectrums? So when we think about that, if we go back to even like puberty, it's not just all of a sudden one day we wake up and ta-da, everything's there. It's a process. So starting to look at, how are the moods changing? How is your sleep shifting? How is your digestion shifting?
Mm-hmm.
What about your just those hot flashes or night sweats? What does that look like? And some people don't even get those. They're so lucky.
Yeah.
I had them for a brief amount of time. Thank the Lord that they didn't last very long. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of, you need to start tracking symptoms and really get on an understanding of what is normal for you,
Right.
so that you can see what's abnormal, what is
Yeah.
shifting out.
So having a journal, I mean, I
Yes.
often have a journal to track like intake of food, those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't actually track like sleep. Like there's some days too where this is where I sort of try and rationalize it as like, okay, like I sometimes think emotionally, like I haven't had a lot of sleep, so therefore I'm suffering from insomnia. But maybe it's just like, oh, I had one night this week where I didn't have good sleep. And last week I had 2 nights, and the week before I was fine. So really it's just like, little sporadic
Yeah.
incidences, but there's maybe subtle shifts that need to take place, versus when someone says they have insomnia, well, okay, that could be like every single night, 7 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
4 months out of the year.
Right.
Sorry, one of my
Yes.
dogs is like, anyways, I'll just leave them. They're like having fun right now. But so I guess my question is once you sort of figure out some of these things, and we're talking about gut health, is this something that we're always going to have to monitor as midlife women and as we continue to age and get into our senior years?
I don't think we're necessarily always going to have to monitor it. When you find that sweet spot and a good understanding, and I'm speaking from experience right now, because I feel like I have finally found that sweet spot. Like I am sleeping really well. My energy levels are good throughout the day. My mood is pretty stable. My husband's grateful for that. and those around me.
Right.
And like, I don't have any hot flashes or night sweats anymore. So it's, and for me, it really came to, I started to really look at my diet.
Mm-hmm.
I started to look at how I was exercising, because when I was younger, I could do more of the HIIT workouts and do great and thrive on that. Now it will crush me. So it's very light exercise for me. I've learned I can't handle rice. That's a really big one for me, and where most people can. So there's no gluten, no rice in my diet, and it makes for interesting dining out experiences, but it also, like, I just know how I feel when I eat the right foods.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to pay attention and track what it is that helps you feel really good, and also what doesn't make you feel good,
Yeah.
on a
I,
variety of different ways.
I love that. And um, it's been so helpful hearing about your business and how you help people out. And like I mentioned to you before, I also love to, on this podcast episode, go behind the scenes and understand a little bit more about you as the entrepreneur. I mean, you're a multifaceted human being. You're a mom, you're a business owner, you're a partner, spouse. Um, Talk to me about like why the decision to shift businesses. I'm always curious, like when, I mean, you mentioned that earlier about moving out of, your chiropractic practice and going
Mm-hmm.
into the health concierge, but what's been that shift like for you? And how does it feel now that you've come through the other side, you're in this business that you thrive in?
Yeah, absolutely. So the part of the reason the chiropractic shift happened was due to my daughter. I was a mom juggling a business, and when I had my daughter, since I owned my own business, she went back to the office with me. So at 6 weeks, I just brought her along to the office.
Wow.
And I took care of, my specialty was pediatrics and prenatal. So there was lots of moms and babies in the practice
Yeah.
anyway. So it just made sense. And also, my patients obviously knew I was pregnant and that I had a baby.
Hmm.
So they were like, welcomed her with open arms. But as she started to get bigger,
And needier. Yeah.
and needier, like,
Yeah.
so we ended up with a nanny in the office and then a nanny outside of the office because mommy really needed some time to work. But as she got older, she started to ask, like, she knew that I was gone.
Hmm.
And so I shifted my schedule where it was, okay, I had 2 very long days. I would drop her off at school, head up to the office, and then I wouldn't be home until just about dinner time, if not bedtime. Um, and so I remember one night she had asked me, Mommy, are you going to the office tomorrow? And I said, yeah, it's a Thursday. And she
Yeah.
goes, oh. And I just went, ooh,
Oh.
okay. She's really noticing.
Hmm.
Even though it was 2 long days a week, I just started to make that shift. And I was in a place in the practice too, where I was like, I loved chiropractic, still love chiropractic, but it was also, there were some pieces where I was like, there's something missing. And so that's where I really started to lean into the concierge. And I just had to learn to follow where my, I was thriving, like you said, um, because I didn't want it to feel like a chore to go to work, in quotes, right?
Yeah.
I never wanted to feel like I was going to work. I wanted to be helping others and serving others. And I feel like I did that best in the transition while still honoring my family by shifting, because I do virtual work now. I do have some in-person clients, and those are amazing as well.
Yeah.
But being able to build my schedule around my daughter, even this podcast, like, I was just at her final day of cheer at school,
Oh,
and then
cool.
so I got to see that, and now recording this.
Right.
So it's really about finding the balance, really.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I love about online businesses. I mean, like 20 years ago, I don't even think this would have been an option for a lot of women entrepreneurs. And let's face it, like really post COVID,
Mm-hmm.
post pandemic era, there's been like this huge influx of women business owners because of the flexibility that the online space creates for us.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier before we press record that you're in a co working space. I mean, some of those things did exist before, but I didn't really know where they were. And so, when I was having my kids are older than yours, about 10 years older than yours right now, but it wasn't even an option for me to think about leaving my corporate career to go start a business, because it meant that I would have to just be on the road again. And I'm like, okay, well, I already have that with my corporate job. Why
Right.
leave it, benefits plans and bonus programs, and, and start from scratch. But now it just makes it so much easier for women to go and do those things and still be, I think, present in our children's lives, and not just women, but obviously men too, as far as business owners.
Absolutely.
What's been the best advice that you've gotten from a coach, a mentor, a guide that, helped you out with your business that you're still using today?
That's a great question. Honestly, one of the things actually, as I was making that transition from chiropractic into full-time coaching, she said, you have to stay in your zone of genius.
Mm,
Because I had a couple of coaches who actually suggested that I coach other chiropractors on how to exit their practice. And I was
right.
like, I think I just got really lucky in that. Like, I'm not going to be able to coach someone else in that. And
Still trying to
while
figure it out myself, right?
yeah, I'm like, I got real lucky in selling my practice. It was one person that I asked and she said yes. But I think staying in that zone of genius, so really finding what it is that you love doing
Mhm.
and going deep in that. And I think that's where, with the health concierge work that I do, I decided to focus on gut health and parasites and some of the more root cause issues, because I can go real deep on those areas. Are there 100 other things that I could do from a concierge perspective? Absolutely. But it's also why I have so many other practitioners around me that are way smarter in
Right.
nutrition or way smarter in allergies, that I'm able to point someone and say, hey, you need to go get your allergies taken care of first and then come back and see me, or we can work in tandem, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So,
And for your clients, that's such a great experience because they're not left hanging there going, oh, well, that's not what I do. Like, you're able to point them in
mhm,
the right direction, get the solution. Sometimes it means them coming back to you or working with somebody else. But either way, it's like they're happy and they're going to refer you most likely to somebody else.
right. And I
Okay.
think as entrepreneurs, we need to not live in a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
There are plenty of clients, and even in chiropractic, there were chiropractors that were just down the road from me, always.
Right.
We need to understand the value that we bring to the table, and that the right people are going to find us in our businesses. I think that's really important to remember as an entrepreneur.
I love that. What's a challenge or a business goal that you've got in the sights, for 2025 that you're going to start working on?
Oh,
And you don't
I
have to
don't,
do it now, but
I know. I don't even want to say this because I really don't want to do it, but I know that I need to do it.
Okay.
But it's really getting, understanding how social media can really play a bigger role in my business.
Hmm.
It's something that I've resisted for a long time because I am not the kind of influencing type. I'm not going to take videos of what I had for breakfast, or, right?
Yeah, and I'm good. Yeah.
Just not interested in it. I forget where my phone is most of the time. So I'm like,
Okay.
meh, well, that I messed up on that. But I also know that social, the social platforms are where a lot of people are.
Sure.
And one of the things that I'm learning is there are platforms that I think for the middle-aged person or for my ideal client,
Hmm.
like LinkedIn or Pinterest, I think are more advantageous to my business versus Instagram.
Yeah, I just got
Um,
on Pinterest myself.
yes, I cannot wait to get in there.
Yeah,
Um,
there's so many different conversations that are happening there. And the beauty about Pinterest, not that I'm a Pinterest specialist yet by any means, but I'm just in there, is you can point your audience to other sources of content versus some platforms like LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, but they don't really like you telling the audience to go to another platform. So if
mhm.
you do have a podcast or a blog, Pinterest is great for that because they don't mind you leaving Pinterest for a little bit and coming back.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think Pinterest is really great because there's also other providers. So as a concierge, I'm
yes.
like, hey, check this out, check this
Yeah,
out, check this out. So it's
exactly.
bringing things in to others. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I really want to do is I want to be a resource. I want to help point people in the right direction.
I love that. So, where can people find you and how can they start working with you?
My website is a great place to find me. It's got some information. It's Innate Roots. It'll be linked in the show notes, I'm sure.
Yes.
But it's innate roots simply because like I truly believe that our blueprint has just gotten messed up over the years. So getting back to that original template.
Yeah.
Um,
Resetting things.
and then you can find me on Instagram. There's a hodgepodge of stuff on there.
That's okay.
But Instagram is another place where it's a good place to find me. But yeah,
Okay. And then you gave us a link to a quiz, I think, to help people get started.
I sure did.
Can you
So
tell us a little bit more? Yeah.
absolutely. One of the things that I specialize in for gut health is parasites.
Okay.
Um, and it's because I went through my own journey and have found a lot of clarity and healing in my own body and with so many of my clients. So I created a quiz that allows someone to see if they are being bombarded by parasites. Because the fact of the matter is everybody has parasites.
Hmm.
But the question is how much and how much are they impacting your health?
Okay.
So that quiz is just a good starting point to find out where they might be impacting your health. And then I have a 30-day parasite cleanse that goes along with that to help get rid
Okay.
of them.
Great. Well, that's going to be in the show notes too. So as people are listening, go there and download it and get connected to the work that Dr. Patti Gonzalez is working on right now. Last question for you before we sign off is, and I always love to ask this question of everybody that comes on the podcast, but if I was to give you a billboard, sorry, that's Mocha. If I could give you a billboard and you could put anything on it, what would it say and where would you put it?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. That's a really hard question. I would put it like in a suburban area where there's
Mhm.
lots of families
Okay.
and what would it say? Um, could it be a question? It could be anything.
Yeah, anything you want.
Oh my gosh. I'm stumped, Brenda. What do I even say to this?
It's okay. It's supposed to kind of stump you a little bit. So don't worry. Like you weren't supposed to like have anything rehearsed or prepared.
I honestly would say something about health. Like, have you had your health checked lately or where, like, because I believe our health is our wealth.
Yeah.
Um,
Get your
actually,
gut
it could
checked.
say that. Yeah, your health is your wealth. Like, how healthy are you?
Yeah. Perfect. There you go.
Yeah.
Patty, it's been great having you on today. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And I can't wait to take the quiz and learn a little bit more about parasites. I hope everyone else does that too after they listen to this episode. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in today and be well. Take care. Oh, there.